Hello class, Zebulon here. I have completed my drawing using very thin paint, which I've thinned down with turpentine. And the reason for that is that I wanted to be able to erase, if you will, as I go along. This building is particularly problematic because it has a lot of angles to it, which is part of the reason that I wanted to use a structure for your first painting, if this happens to be your first painting, because in some respects it's easier to paint than things like foliage, which we do have some foliage in this particular scene, but what you will see after this little introduction is you'll see me doing the drawing. And I came back now to talk about what I have done so that you'll get a better angle. I realized that where I had my video camera positioned, my canvas had angles that were different from the angles I was trying to achieve in my drawing. Now, you can do a guesstimation, but if you don't trust your guesstimator, especially if this is your first drawing, then you can use a ruler. And I have checked my drawing with my ruler after all is said and done. And what we have here is a perspective drawing. And perspective drawing is a little complicated for me. I know how to do it. I can do it if I need to, but I would rather eyeball it and then do some guesstimating along the way. However, to check my drawing, because it's a lot harder to change once you start putting the paint on the canvas. So I discovered by measuring the distance from side to front side of this building that it is exactly as wide as it is high from this line that goes straight across here on the roof. So then I used my ruler to measure, and I measured using my width, and my width was 7 inches, and so my distance from that point down to here was actually a little bit short in my drawing, so I lowered it down here. So that will be my bottom line. Now, using that as my measurement, I did the very same thing with the roof. Now, this roof is going downward at the top, so it's not straight across, it's going to go downward. And on the bottom, and this is where the perspective drawing comes in the bottom it goes slightly upward. So what I did was measure from using this as my guide, measure from here to here and then to here. And then I realized from measuring on my photograph that it is shorter from here to here. So I had to make up the difference in the slant. Now, I also determined that the slant of the back side of that roof is a 45-degree angle, which is fairly easy to measure. And none of this is strictly important, but it's important for you to get your object as close to reality as it should be. Once you learn all of these little rules, then you do what you want to do, and you can be the kind of painter that you want to be. And much of this is going to be refined when I start putting in my colors. So my my line where the road is slightly slanted. So I've kind of laid that out a little bit, and that will change as I put paint on. You don't have that same line continued out here, even in the photograph. So you're going to have foliage back here. So it doesn't really matter so much about that. And then, there, of course, there are steps and the doors, and I have those lightly painted in. But you find a point of perspective here, where you have these eaves that the doors begin slightly above that, and then you look at the center, and they're going to be slightly off because of the angle of the building, so they're not exactly placed. So just that's when you can eyeball things. And this little arc right here is not exactly right in my drawing, but I'm going to cover that up anyway. But it really is harder to cover things up once you get paint on the canvas. So I'm ready to start putting some paint on this building. I'm not too concerned about the placement at this point of these bushes, but you can go ahead and sort of suggest them. And I think this is a pecan tree. And when you get your sky painted in, which will probably be the first order of business, then you can paint your tree in. But for the most part, I want you to see where to place your building. The front of this building, let me just measure here. Let's see. My canvas is 18 by 24. So it is, the center is slightly over, which is good. You don't want it dead center on your canvas, but I think this is going to work. And if it doesn't, I'll make changes as I go along. But for now, just take a few minutes to watch the speeded up version of my drawing, and realize that if you have to keep erasing and coming back with more lines, not a problem, especially if this is a beginning painting for you. So happy painting.